day to you, Guyana, and welcome to this final edition of Facing the Nation for the month of September. Of course, it is Friday, the 30th day of September 2016. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for joining us. I trust that your month would have been as productive as mine was, and that you would have achieved all that you've gotten achieved thus far. Next month, tomorrow's month is October, then there's November, then there's December. I'm already hearing and seeing people selling Christmas decorations. So I know, even despite our problems, the many problems in our nation, people are still happy and they're still looking forward to celebration and so on. So that is a good sign. It is also the end of Amerindian Heritage Month. Of course, Indigenous Peoples Heritage Month, and of course the closing of the month of education. But we always like to celebrate our first people. So whether it's September or not, we'll focus on that. And again, education is big. As you know, the current government has placed a lot of emphasis on improving the education sector, especially the president himself, His Excellency Brigadier David Granger. But that is just a synopsis about this month. Today, on today's program, we are talking about the housing department, housing development. As you know, in the last 24 hours or so, you would have seen and you would have been reading in the news and seen on the various newscasts that there's some small changes, some may say big changes, regarding the housing department and housing development and so on in our country. And I have returning on this program to discuss not only those changes, but the general housing matters. The minister within the Ministry of Communities, the Honorable Valarie Patterson. Welcome back to Facing the Nation, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Malika.
All right, it's so great to have you. Viewers, I must let you know, of course, this is for those of you who don't follow me on social media. Yesterday, I announced that the minister was going to be here today. The minister is a very, very busy woman. She has been doing so much. It's very difficult to get directly to the minister. So what I did, I invited questions from the public that they would like the minister to respond. So apart from our conversation, I think I'm going to start off with those questions from the general public, and she'll try her best to respond, because of course I like to call housing her baby.
Yes, it is.
Minister, I know you've been a lot in the news. Even before we talk about that, some of the things we spoke about the last time you were on, you would have been on Facing the Nation months ago, people are still having some of those same issues, and I can basically jump right into it. And viewers, remember, the initial questions are questions that came from you, some of you, the public. Persons are talking about having issues like they've paid since May and no word on land title, no agreement of sale. Let's talk about land titling and agreement of sale. Why is there a delay if it is that these persons are not doing what they're supposed to be doing? Let's talk about that first off.
All right. Like I did anticipate this question,
okay,
because it's one of the burning issues with CHNPA. Let me start off with the agreement of sale.
Okay.
At Central Housing and Planning Authority, the authorized person to sign, and this is according to the Act, the CHMPA Act, to sign the agreement of sale is the Chief Executive Officer. Mm-hmm. Now, it was in the media that the CEO resigned mm-hmm. from that office with effect from the 1st of mm-hmm. July.
Okay.
No new appointment was made for that position.
Okay.
To date, we're still without a CEO. What has been happening? The board of CHNPA put a management team in place, and they are actually running the institution or the agency. So, agreement to sales are there, they're prepared, but nobody to sign it. About 3 weeks ago, a decision was made to have Ms. Deborah Edwards, who is the secretary to the board of directors, mm-hmm. and Ms. Edwards has begun to sign.
Okay.
And I can tell you that she's doing a good job.
Okay, so those people who...
remember, we're just out of the 50-50 promotion,
yes.
and so we have lots of agreements of sale to sign off. But the process has started moving. And it's moving.
Let's talk about the land titling situation.
The land titling situation. Mm-hmm. CHMPA made a decision mm-hmm. that as soon as an applicant or potential house lot owner pays 50% of the cost of the land, we're going to begin the process of the title. Now, I must say that the deeds registry, which is the institution responsible for the processing of titles. Some people believe that it's housing,
Okay, it's
CHMPA.
not. Okay.
We don't prepare titles. We only facilitate the processing of it.
Okay.
But the deeds registry, and I think the Guyanese people are well aware that there was a major issue with backlogs of these documents to be signed. Now, after the removal of the office to the NBS building, I can say to you that they have more space, more employees, and the delay time is not as long as it was before. The other problem was that there was no commissioner. You know that Mr. Ben was appointed by the president,
Yes.
and Mr. Ben is the person who signs off on these titles. And Mr. Ben was just recently appointed, and I can say to you that and there was also no registrar for a period of time. After the new registrar was appointed, Miss Rosalind Robinson, and I must give kudos to her.
Okay.
She has been doing an awesome job, because I'm telling you, if it was not for the backlog, she would have been current with issuing of titles. And I tell you, every week you have over 100, 200. Just yesterday, I think we received over 100 titles. And so I can say that process is moving quickly, and I must give compliment to Ms. Robertson and her staff. And you know, if there are urgent matters, we can call her, explain the urgency, and she would facilitate it.
Okay.
And at my end, you have Miss Esther Stevens. I can tell you she's a very efficient staff. And working with Miss Robinson, titles are, the process is really going quickly.
Okay.
I think when they had backlog like way back to 2012, 2013, 2014. But the situation is going to be current very soon.
Okay. Viewers, for those of you now joining us, I said earlier that we're talking about housing development, housing matters, and so on, because we'd really like to hear from the minister, especially with new projects being on stream. Everybody's talking about the apartment buildings that are coming on stream. But for those of you who are now joining the program, what I'm doing, I invited questions from the public via social media yesterday. So some of those questions, we're trying to get the minister to respond to as many of them as she possibly can before we go into the conversation about development and so on. Minister, another thing that we keep hearing about, another issue is that people would come to me and say, okay, what's happening? I applied since 2008, I applied since 2012. People go in as far as back as 2006, and they haven't gotten a call from the Department of Housing. What's happening with people who have applied for many years now and still no response?
I hear you say people is going as far back as 2006. You ain't gone far yet.
I haven't gone, okay.
I have met people in the system with applications 1995, 1997, 2000, yes. And everywhere I go, people would hold these letters and wave it like this, to get my attention. I can't say what happened back then, but I can say that from the time I took office in January of this year, the house lots that we had available for allocations, I didn't spare any of them. I gave them all out. Some regions we had quite a number, like Region 6. We had over 200 house lots. Region 5, we had probably like 180 or so. Region 10, we had 36. Region 11, Region 7, sorry, how did I reach the 11?
Region 11. Usually we say Region 11 is the North American region.
I wanted to say that Region 7 had 11.
Yes.
We had just over 200 in Region, I would say like 200 plus in Region 3. Region 4, most of what we had was on the East Bank. Mm-hmm. We have no house lots available, or we had none in central Georgetown. And we had a few on the East Coast. You would have known also that Wednesdays being my public day, mm-hmm. every Wednesday, and then I had to move from Wednesday to any day in the week.
Yeah, because of your schedule.
Where the crowds were there for house lot allocations. Apart from allocations being done at the central office, mm-hmm. myself and team, we went into some of these areas, some of the communities, and actually did allocations. I can say when we went to Region 6, allocations exceeded 200. Region 5, the allocations was over 180 something. Mm-hmm. Even though we started with allocating to the police service officers, men and women, mm-hmm. They were the priority for those two allocations.
This is 3. For Region, okay.
5, 6, and 3. Mm-hmm. And after I completed with the policemen and mm-hmm. women, mm-hmm. I did the general public. So all that was available. And even, I think when I was on the last program, I spoke about high-income lots that were available.
Yes, you did. And
well, trust me, my dear.
The high-income.
They went like as though they were middle income. I think one of the reasons for that was the 50-50 Jubilee offer, mm-hmm. where you can, if you paid 50% by a certain time, by the end of April, you qualified for 50% discount. So persons recognized that the house lots that we had for $2 million, they would only pay 1.5.
So they went
and
ahead.
So, you know, persons really took advantage of that offer. Mm-hmm. So the house lots were all gone. They were all gone.
All right. Now that you mentioned the offer, what I'm going to do is to link some of the questions with some of the things I know that you're saying. First off, let's talk about the 50-50 offer. That was good because there was a reduction. Because one of the questions I got from the public yesterday is that, look, again, on the campaign trail, APNU+AFC, one of the things that they labored on and promised, let me say we, I can't say they, yes. Everyone knows that this is my party, my partnership, my government, is the high price that people keep paying, that people have to pay, people are forced to pay for house lots. And one of the questions I got is that, look, what about a reduction? So can Guyanese at any point in time expect a reduction on the amount of money you pay for land?
Well, let me say, because I had that question this morning.
Okay.
Just before I came here, a couple was at my office. Mm-hmm. And they were saying to me, look, we paid this amount, but we have some struggles, some difficulties, and we can't pay the remaining balance. Mm-hmm. All those house lots were house lots that were already developed. Mm-hmm. We have not yet, as a government, developed new house lots. So the cost was already there, mm-hmm. and it was based on the cost of the infrastructure work that was done, the cost for the services that were inputted, the electricity, water, and so on. Okay. So there's no way. The Jubilee offer was the only way I could have, mm-hmm. offer something so that the public could get a reduction.
So in terms of when the new development comes, they can expect
new development, because I can tell you, from the level of the president, the entire government is concerned about the cost.
Okay.
But I must also say, and the viewers must also understand, mm-hmm. that the cost for those house lots is not the true cost. They are highly subsidized by government.
And this is by this current government.
Well, the government of that day, mm-hmm. because, the infrastructure work and so on was done then. But there is no way we can develop a housing area and not get government subsidy, and the cost would be lower. No way.
Okay, all right.
But government intends to continue doing or giving subsidy for these, because housing is a social. It's all about helping the poor people and so on. There's a social side to housing.
Let's talk about, you mentioned police earlier. Is there an arrangement for, or I should say, are there arrangements for other public servants, like teachers, for example, teachers and health workers?
All right. If I can talk briefly about housing, how CHM and PA has refocused.
Okay, great.
The mandate given to us by the president himself is that 2017's focus for CHMPA must be for low-income and state employees.
Great.
I'm telling you, His Excellency is big on ensuring that government employees are properly taken care of. So teachers, nurses, policemen, army, once you're working with government, you're a state employee. And you have priority in this new focus. However, I'm not sure if you, because you talk about condominiums, but as I speak about the new focus, let me say that we have recognized that, yes, giving a house lot to somebody, it's all nice and dandy. But when we check our records, we have approximately 55% occupancy rate, which means for the 5% of the lands the house lots allocated are vacant. Now that's a whole issue by itself, and I am going to touch on it. The Turnkey project that we have at Perseverance, we've built 59 houses, completed and fully occupied, and we have 141 in completion, work in progress right now. And that has been a big issue in the media about the turnkey houses.
Yes.
But the 141 houses, we have over 800 applications. Now, I don't know what kind of mathematics you would do to allocate 141 houses to 800 applicants. It tells us, however, that the demand is not so much for a house lot, but a housing unit. Many people said to us, and continue to say to us, they don't want the hassle with contractors. Some people have had bad experiences, and we have received letters. Even the president forwarded one recently to us, to myself and Minister Bolkan. This elderly woman sharing her experience. It's ridiculous. And so we believe that because the need, it's urgent. We have lots of people out there who urgently need a house lot or housing unit. That the preference is not to issue house lots, but to build housing units. We're looking at building one flat apartments. We're looking at duplexes. We're looking at, East and West Rumville. They have this double, what we call them range houses.
Range houses, yes.
We're looking at 3 levels and 4 levels condominiums. Now, condominiums is a new idea in being introduced to Guyana. But I know we've already done the designs. It's lovely. I really forgot, because I plan to bring one of the drawings to excite the people when they see it.
I wonder if you look in that file if there
no,
you
it's
wouldn't
not
find
here. The landscaping, we're catering for parking, for green spaces, so the children will have their play area.
So these will be purchased from government. People will be able to purchase.
People will be able to purchase. But you said from government. Right now, there is a cabinet paper, before cabinet to make a decision, and I know the decision is going to be made shortly.
Yes.
As to whether we're going to have these units built solely by government, which I tell you that will be a very huge cost, but government will decide, or if we partner with private, you do a public-private partnership.
Understood.
So whatever is the decision that comes from Cabinet on this matter, of course we will let the public know. Currently we have expression of interest in the newspapers going, asking people who are interested, home developers. We did indicate the 3 locations we're going to start with. Little and Grey Diamond. There we have I think it's 2.3 acres of land in East La Penitence, where we hope to do 4 condominiums there, and Cummins Lodge.
Okay.
So as soon that expression, I think, ends the 22nd of November, and then, well, the expression of interest has to be sent to the National Tender Board, and then we're going to they're going to shortlist. And then we're going to tender. So those shortlisted applicants will be the ones who will tender for the project.
All right. Before we talk about some more, because I know there's another project that you're working on. It's basically your baby. It has to do with consultation that's happening right now in policy. But before we even get to that, let's talk about communities that are now developing. Let me call them developing communities. Some of them still no proper roads, lights, and so on. One of the questions we got is that somebody's concerned about the drainage and roads in Horstelling, the new scheme in Horstelling. So against that, is there a plan to fast track the development in these communities that are already there in terms of new housing and so on? Do you have a plan to do that?
Yes, we do have a plan. Not only on the East Bank, also on the West Dam, on the East Coast. And there are other areas. We have Linden, we have Berbice, locations all around. But I need to let people understand that this government inherited a housing project with numerous problems. What you're talking about there is part of our inheritance. And
some inheritances are very difficult to get rid of. I understand, Minister. Go ahead.
In every housing area, we have problems. I've been to many of them so far, and still have some to go to visit. Roads bad, canals blocked, drains blocked, and we just came out of a heavy rainy season.
Yes,
and so we had the DNI people very busy working for us. In Luston Russ, I went there. People who are now building their 3 and 4 level, they've already laid blocks on the water. When we check the main canals that don't fall under us, but the main canals were blocked. So the drains that we built the water was not flowing out. So you know what? It was backing up
into the,
and it was terrible. We now had to engage the RDC in Region 3, and I must say that the REO there is very cooperative to us. And we engaged them, and we had them clean the internal drains. Right now, as we speak, the main canals are being cleared by the DNI. Of course, we, CHMPA, absorb the cost for that, but DNI is doing the work on our behalf. We had issues throughout the East Bank, Horstelling, Farm, Covent Garden, the same problem.
Okay. What I'd like to interject here, Minister, because what is coming out here, and I'm hearing all of this from the Minister, and viewers, I must tell you, and for those of you who did respond to me telling you to send your questions for the Minister, you would know too that these are the same complaints that we're getting. So this is indeed telling me that the Minister is not in a bubble. She knows what's going on, but it's just to find solutions to these problems.
Yes, so we are working. We do have a schedule that we're working with, but I know the people from Region 4 might expect that, we focus on Region 4 only, but we have to focus on all the areas, right? We are working, and I'm saying that it's not going to happen overnight. It entails huge costs, and you can't do development and as and D&I work, maintenance of the roads and everything at the same time. You just try to figure it out, the amount of money to do all of that. But gradually there's some areas where no roads. It's just a fair weather thing cut to facilitate access to the locations, to the house lots. And no roads.
Right, because and the complaints coming to because people are saying, how can we build? How can we start building if we don't have proper roads to take?
I know that
more
is
expensive.
Also one of the reasons for the low occupancy. Not only a question of affordability, but let's be fair here. Even if you're renting somewhere, you have water, you have electricity, you have roads, you have your kids going to school, you're working. And you're given a house lot where there is no electricity, there is no water, you don't have proper roads.
You can't occupy.
Let's be fair, you're not going to build. And we understand that.
Okay.
And that's the reason why we're working now we have 16 areas, 16 housing schemes without electricity.
Wow.
Believe it. And we've just, in the newspaper today, there's a tender out there for suppliers of electrical hardware materials. And so that tender closed, I think the 20th or somewhere, the 15th of November. After that, then we're going to look at the tenders, select the whoever the suppliers. We know that this work will not start until January. Because if it closes November, there's something that you have to do between then and December. But the promise is, by the end of the first quarter of next year, all 16 areas will receive electricity.
Okay, all right, great, Minister. Again,
and after that 16, there's not supposed to be any housing scheme that we have built without electricity.
All right, well, I know the viewers, we are going to hold you to that. Viewers, again, those of you who are now tuning in, we're talking housing development today. I know you've grown accustomed to me having in the first half one guest and in the second half another one, but because housing is so big and because I did have those questions to ask on the public's behalf, we decided to stretch it out a bit. So my only guest today is the minister within the Ministry of Communities, and I'm so happy she took time out for us to chat. So we're going to continue our conversation. Again, before we go to some more of those developmental matters, squatters is still an issue. One of the questions that came direct, what are you planning to do about the squatters in the Sophia area? And again, this is not a question to say, we don't want people living on the streets, so we understand that.
But it's strange that the question of squatters in Sophia area, because I've actually addressed that on TV already, about a week or 2 weeks ago,
but some people
after I went into. But let me say this. You said we still have the issue of squatting, and it sounds very mild. But the issue of squatting is huge in this country. Every single area you go, there's a matter of squatting. But let me start with Central Georgetown.
Yeah.
And you said, housing is my baby. I am concerned, and I'm greatly concerned about what I see in Sophia, about what I see in East and West Rumbelt, because I've actually been there. I am not the kind of minister that will sit in office and just depend on a report coming. I go and see some things for myself. So when I speak, I know what I'm saying. The issue of squatting is grave. Every single available land in Sophia and East and West is taken up with a little shack. I've seen a few ambitious ones who built a neat little house on the dams. Some of them, they're you see that they have potential to do better. Some just throw up a piece of thing, 2 zinc and piece cardboard and canvas and all sorts of things. There's an experience that I had that I want to share. I shared it on Gina just the other day, and it really upset me. Coming out, I think it's BRC Field, but the road between there. I saw a little boy going down to Canal, And when I looked, in his hand he had 2 plates, 2 cups, spoon and fork, it looked like. And my first sense said he was going to wash those wares. Then I said, no, it can't be. Because when I look at the canal, the top of it was covered in green moss. So I stopped and I looked. He went down, take his hand, and he moved away the moss, washed his 4 pieces, and went back up to the shop. Now that messed with me for the rest of the evening. Because environmentally, that water, you look at it,
yes,
and not
water
only
stagnant
it's stagnant, and then there are some pit latrines that part of it, it's over the canal, and you know that all the waste goes right in
back
there.
Into that canal.
Back in there, and I think the health authorities and the environmental people really need to go in there and see what's happening. I don't know where they get water from to bathe and to wash their clothes.
Well, if he's washing dishes with that canal water,
I hope it's not the same water being used to bathe. But it's a grave issue. And I had a meeting with Minister Bulkan and my management team and PS, and we looked at the way forward. Because to bring order to Georgetown, you can't have development in this city with those conditions prevailing. And while in some squatting areas you can regularize the area, you cannot do it on those dams and government reserves that are being fully occupied in Sophia and East and West and other areas, but I'm using those 2 as an example. And as you go around the country, some of the areas you can't regularize because it's not environmentally friendly.
Okay.
And you cannot have a cohesive community in those areas. So we are working on regularizing squatting areas. And the other thing to that, we're also working on handing over some of these areas to City Council and to NDCs. Because we have over 200 housing areas to be handed over. The issue, however, coming from the NDCs is that, the schemes still have problems.
Yes.
The infrastructure work still need to be done and a whole lot of things. But if we were to wait until they're all finished, they will never be handed over. Because by the time you finish repairing this road and that one, another 2 deteriorate. So what we're doing right now, and my planning department is working on, we're going to do some level of infrastructure, hand over, and continue to work with the NDCs to rectify the other problems. But we have to hand them over.
All right, fabulous.
Yes.
Minister, now let's talk about what you've been doing recently in terms of countrywide consultation, what it is about. And I'm assuming here the final question that I have from the public will be answered, where a young man is asking about married couples, the criteria for getting a house lot, and if there are any provisions being made. So let's talk about what you're doing countrywide.
Currently.
Those
and you know I'm having fun doing this one.
I realize that.
In my budget speech of 2016,
yes,
I did state to the Guyanese people that I'm going to work towards policy change where the criteria to be eligible for a house lot is 21 years. That's the age criteria, 21 years. And I said I'm going to work to move it from 21 downwards to 18. I feel very passionate about this because when I look, and I'm going to repeat what I said in Parliament, in Guyana, you become an adult at 18.
At 18, yes.
We have lots of 18-year-olds, young women, who already have 1, 2, and some 3 children. I met one. She's 19, and she's on number 4.
Wow.
You can get married without parental consent at 18. You can have a driver's license and own a vehicle at 18. You can vote at 18. I know we had many 18-year-olds who went out and voted last year, March. So if you can do all of that, why we are saying that at 18, 19, or 20, you can't apply for a house lot? I find that to be untenable, using a word of a friend of mine. I find that to be untenable. And I've started the consultation last week. I have completed 4 so far, the first being in Rosal, then Diamond, Linden, and 2 days, Wednesday, I did the 4th one at Annandale.
Okay.
Next week, Thursday, I'm going to be at New Amsterdam, and Friday at Belgium. And then I go to Bartica and Regina. And I think the final one is at Baggersville in Region 3.
Okay.
The 4 consultations that I've had so far unanimously agreed that the age should be changed. And the good thing about it is it was not groupings of young people only.
Okay.
But there were many adults,
the senior folks,
who feel that these young people should begin to take responsibility at 18, because some of them are already big men and women and out of parental control. Some feel that they would have something useful to put their monies towards if they know that, okay, I can apply and start working towards saving my money, and by age 20 I can be eligible for a loan at the bank or something. They have an object, a goal to work towards.
Yes.
So that's generally what it is, and I'm going to complete the consultation and then present the policy change.
Then you're going to present the policy change, all right. So.
Because I have backings of 7 regions. We're not doing 1, 8, and 9.
Is there a
reason? All the lands there come under the indigenous
affairs,
councils and so on, right? So that's it. And I know the young people are very happy.
Yeah, they are, because the one is asking about, he's young and he's married. He wants to know if special arrangements will be made for you when you're young and married in terms of
yes.
foreign house.
I'm saying, why should you encourage a young man to get married and then he has to live at his mom or live at her mom and dad or go pay a rent when that very money they can use to pay an installment?
Indeed.
And you have your privacy.
Which is always, which is very important. I'm looking at my notes here to ensure that I haven't missed any of the questions that came from the public, and it does not seem as though I have missed. But Minister, I know I have to begin to prepare to wrap up with you, but just so that the public can understand, because they're going to keep asking how soon. I know you did give a breakdown in terms of next year, in terms of the new, let me use the exact words here. It is the house drive that will include building of apartment buildings. Of course, you're calling them condos, and mini malls and so on. You even talked about the fact that they will have green spaces. How do you expect this sort of development to enhance, viewers, I'm not being biased here, but we are in Region 4, so, and she did point out the various locations that you will find this new development in Region 4. How do you expect it to enhance our city?
Well, if you see the landscaping, if you see the whole aesthetics, I tell you, you're going to get excited. And I'm going to ensure that you get a copy so that you can show,
so I can show the
viewers, right? But I am just, from what I saw being produced by the planning department, I'm trying, just imagine East La Penitence, that area that we're going to put the condominiums. I think the people on the outskirts of that 2.3 acre or how much it is are going to get so jealous that they will ensure that they clean up their area and do their own landscaping, Because you don't want this model area looking so nice and your house is right next door and you're not going to do something to enhance your own. So I see what we're bringing is going to generally impact the community, and people themselves will now take their own little corner into hand and enhance.
Are you concerned about, or I should say, do you think that there will be any challenges in going this route? Because we know there are always going to be naysayers in anything that you do. I've heard sentiments of people saying that, look, building apartment buildings, or as you call it, condos, is not the way to go for Guyana in terms of housing development. Are you concerned about, not necessarily those sentiments, because people will say what they have to say, but are you at all concerned that this will bring challenges not only for your department, but for even people who want to take advantage of this opportunity? Any concerns at all?
No, I think that people will bite it because all the areas that I've gone to, I've sold this idea.
Okay.
Even when I went into Sophia, I sold the idea to the persons, at the road corners and so on, that I stopped and spoke with. And I think anytime you try something new, anytime you bring change, there are always challenges. People are generally afraid to try new stuff. And then eventually they will get into it and see it work. It worked in many other countries. Trinidad is going big on that right now. And so I know the Guyanese people will buy into it. And, most of all, our young people, a young couple now starting out, that will be a suitable idea for them. To have an apartment, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, with all the amenities.
Knowing that it's there.
It's there. And we're also looking at considering what we call rent to own, because not everybody might have money to buy. Under the Burnham government, those same apartments, we talk about the range houses.
Yes, the range houses.
It was rent to own. The ones in Linden, rent to own. You pay a small rent until you own it. And people that I've spoken to, they like the idea. And we are going forward with it because you know what? It's better land use when you can have one area and you can only give so much house lots. If you do condominiums, by far we are going to outfit more families in that very space.
I'm assuming, too, it will also work in with government's national unity and social cohesion approach, because you're bringing people more, that can have its problems. But I guess we will have to learn to live with certain things, and you have to try something, indeed. Minister, I know I have to prepare to let you go, but is there anything that you'd like to leave with the public at this time regarding the Department of Housing, your work, your office, and developmental projects for housing in general?
I want to caution the public. There are many persons going around selling house lots that they don't own. I have some situations. We brought the police into this matter. Let me give you one example. There's a young woman in Linden who she has a small business. She sells plantain chips and chicken foot and so on. Throwing, the usual box hand, save her money. She said this guy came to her and offered to sell this land. I said, did you see any documentation? Yes, he showed her people.
Supposedly his land.
Supposedly his land. Apparently it's a fake title. So she paid him, all excited that for the first time she owns a piece of land. She went in to the bank to get money to extend her business, but used that very money to start doing her foundation. Completing the foundation, the real owner of the land showed up. Now she can't even remember. She has no details of the man she bought the land from. Just a phone number, and the number is not being answered. And many persons are coming into us. I know there are persons, I've gone over on the West Dem and I saw notices mounted on people's fence and so on. Purchasing house lots, come in, bring your document, and they buying up house lots and so on. So I'm saying to the Guyanese people, be very, very careful. If you are interested in buying a piece of land or house lot from somebody, come and check with us and verify whether the title, the transport, whether it's a legal document, because so many people are ripped off already.
But Minister Patterson, I know this is supposed to be public knowledge. Even if let's say, use myself for example, I purchased land from the Department of Housing, paid off and everything, all my payments have been made and so on. Is it legal? Am I allowed to sell that land?
No, until 10 years.
So if then we have two problems here.
If you sell it before the end of the 10-year period, you will be fined a heavy fine. Because we don't want people to commercialize residential house lots. I just said we have such a great demand for house lots. We can't afford for people to do that. If you apply to us and it means that you want us to give you a piece of land so that you can build a house. And as I say this, I remember going back to the squatters, we have found some of those people who are squatting own house lots. An investigation revealed that some of them already build houses and rent the houses, and they're squatting.
And you're not supposed to rent either.
No. But if you rent, don't squat. Squatting is illegal. And when President Granger, when His Excellency took office, he made a public announcement against squatting. So people are doing it as a business. So we have to deal with those cases. And we are going to. We've already begun.
Okay, all right.
And it's going to be a zero tolerance. And finally, let me say, we're also focusing right now on having some very low-income houses to offer to the squatters, particularly in the Safari and Rumbelt areas. We're going to give you an alternative. We've already identified the land, and I don't want to say where as yet.
Okay.
And we are now developing the housing unit. I am talking with Food for the Poor and Habitat to see how we can collaborate, because of course we know many of those squatters are not working or just very small income. Okay. So we're not going to go and break you down unless we offer you an alternative. And when we offer you and you don't take it, then we are going to come with the hammer, the spade, everything we can come with and break you down.
Thank you so very much, Minister. Viewers, this has been a conversation with the Minister within the Ministry of Communities, and of course I like to say that housing is her baby, the housing department is her baby, and of course I will continue to update you as the further development in housing goes along, even if the Minister doesn't come back herself often enough. I know I can get her every now and again. I can try to persuade her, and I feel so fortunate today. I got her to sit here for almost an entire hour, and that is fabulous.
Because I consider this important.
Yes. Thank you so very much for that, Minister. Those of you who follow me on social media, if you're now joining us and you've missed this conversation, subsequently, either later on today or tomorrow, the entire conversation will be up there, and I trust that the Minister was able to respond to those questions, to people who did send their questions to me via social media. So once again, thank you so very much for being here, Minister.
Thank you, Malika, for having me.
All right, great. What I'll do is take a very quick break. On the other side of the break, of course, the time has gone, so it will be just time for me to deal with a very few housekeeping matters and then to wrap up today's program. This is Facing the Nation.
I like this speaker.
Welcome back, and thanks very much for staying with Facing the Nation. I trust that you had as much fun as I did today, and fun in a very meaningful and a very smart and a very sensible way that, we would have been able to get so many responses from the Minister Valarie Patterson. And to some of these persons who did send me their questions, I know that they were adequately answered. And of course, it basically tells you that the Department of Housing is a work in progress. Still miles, bounds, and leaps to go, but they are definitely working and not sitting on their hands. And I dream and I wish and I plead and I beg for the day when so many of our other sectors can be functioning at that level. We're not saying that things are going to be perfect or that you're going to wake up tomorrow and things are just going to change and snap back into reality, but of course there is progress. So once again, thank you very much to Minister within the Ministry of Communities, Valarie Patterson. Also, I know last week I promised you that I would have had the Minister of Health today on this program to address that issue where that young woman who was forced to stoop and deliver her baby at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. I know we promised to have that addressed this week, but unfortunately the minister had to leave the jurisdiction. So I trust that we can have him on Facing the Nation next week, where he'll not only discuss that issue, but so many other things that are going wrong in our health sector, especially at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation. So hopefully he will come on next week to discuss that. And what I will keep doing, depending on what the issue is, who the minister or government point person will be on, I will try to continue to get some of those questions from the public answered. So those of you who are not yet following me on social media, whether it's be on Facebook or YouTube, you can do so, and I'll try to communicate as much as I possibly can with you and see how we can get your questions answered, because I know it is not difficult for you to be able to touch and feel and have one-on-one conversation with some of our government officials. So I'll try to facilitate that as much as I possibly can in terms of getting you to answer your questions. Before I go, just about a minute more or so, I want to remind you to be safe, be careful on our roadways. I can't stress this enough. Operation Safeway, it's there. I think Operation Safeway needs to do a lot more. And this is not me bashing Operation Safeway. This is me saying that Operation Safeway needs to do more, because the fact is, since I don't expect Operation Safeway to solve all of the problems overnight, but I am saying that more needs to be done, because we're still seeing the crazy things happening on the road. Sometimes the hours when you expect to see police officers, they're not there. I know we come back to the issue about the fact that they're working with limited resources and their pay is not good enough and so on, but remember, this is a job that you signed on for. You knew of all the challenges and the difficulties when you signed on. The job of the Guyana Police Force is to serve and to protect in every aspect of security. So again, I'm calling on Operation Safeway to do more. But at the same time, I said this earlier in the week on social media, you cannot rely on Operation Safeway to do everything for you. As a citizen, it is your duty, it is your responsibility to be responsible and to be very careful on our roadways. So you have to do as much as you possibly can. Do not speed, do not drink and drive, obey the road rules. There are a whole lot of other things happening in our society in terms of interpersonal violence and so on, but you know what you should be doing and you're not doing it. But we need to also, at the same time, while we're calling on government and the security, the persons in charge of security and so on, while we're calling on them to continue doing their jobs, we're also calling on people, citizens, take responsibility for yourselves, your lives, and for your families. And on that note, I have to leave you this week. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for tuning in. Be good Guyanese citizens. Be careful. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And of course, join me again next week. This has been Facing the Nation.